Hello and welcome to Point and Clink here on twitch.tv/live action roleplay. Our topic today is personal story, and let me introduce our lecturers for today. I'm going to start off with my co-host Tessa. Say hi, Tessa.
Hi, Tessa. I'm Tessa. It's nice to meet all of you, and you probably have seen me on the show before. Uh, Nice to see you, and I'm glad to be here telling a bad story about TTRPG characters. Anybody else want to talk?
I'm sure we will all comment. Next, we're going to say hi to Brittany. Say hi, Brittany.
Hi, Brittany. Today I'll be talking about my weight loss journey, how I lost over 100 pounds and how I keep it off even through hormonal changes and all the crazy stuff through pandemic and all that thing. So yeah, hopefully I can support some of you in your own journeys as well.
All right. Thank you, Brittany. Next, a very familiar face. We have Trevor. Say hi, Trevor.
I'm just going to go with it. Hi, Trevor. I'm just going to make that a thing.
Yes.
Like he said, I've been on for a little bit now, several consecutive shows. I'll be talking about a real life Lord of the Flies experience that I had on an island myself. So, yeah.
All right. Next, we're going to say hi to Jacob. Say hi, Jacob.
Hi, Jacob. Today I'll be talking about going around the world in under an hour. It'll make sense once we get there, trust me.
And I want to introduce someone who we've seen in chat for a very long time, but the first time on screen. So I want to say hi, Eric.
Hi, Eric. I will be talking about the time communist insurgents took my comic books.
And I know, it's like, oh my. And I am your host, Ryan Omega, and I will be talking about the worst week of my life. It will come with a content warning, but it's a story that I don't get to tell very often, but I figure it's going to be a story I could tell today. So, before we begin, Tessa, if you can explain the drinking rules.
All right, the drinking rules for Point and Clink are pretty simple. It's based mainly off of your presentation. So every 3 minutes of your presentation, you get to take a drink. That can be a healthy sip, a healthy chug, or a shot, whatever you want. You're just drinking a beverage. So after 3 minutes, that's 1, 6, 2, so on and so forth. Also, if you make a disclaimer before your presentation, especially a self-deprecating one, and it's not a trigger warning, that's also a drink. If a cat, maybe a dog, appears on screen, that's a drink. And if you don't have any visuals at all, that's another drink. So these are all for you to take, or our fabulous other presenters if they volunteer. That's about it.
All right, and before we begin, everyone rolls a d20 to figure out where they begin their presentation. So closer to 1 means you start first, closer to 20 means you go towards the end of the show. All right, everyone go ahead and roll and tell me your roll. Really?
I need to grab my dice. I left my dice in the other room.
I got a 17.
17 for Eric.
Can I go grab my dice real quick?
Yeah, no problem. Jacob, you got 15?
13.
13. Trevor? 5.
And I got an 8, but it's hard to see on this die.
8. And then we will wait for Brittany for her roll. So I rolled a 1.
Woo, that's exciting.
It's exciting, but it's like okay. I thought I would be. I had a 1 in 6 chance that I would not be presenting first, but I'm presenting first. So it's like, okay, well, I leave it for the universe to decide how these things are going to go. So, Brittany, go ahead and roll 5. Okay. Oh, so we have a tie for 5. Uh,
Tiebreaker.
tiebreaker.
15.
17.
Okay, so 17 for Brittany, 15 for Trevor. Okay, so the order of the presentations are myself first, followed by Trevor, then Brittany, then Tessa, then Jacob, and then Eric. Okay. Uh, so go ahead and occupy the audience and entertain them while I try to um, work on a couple of things here on OBS.
Can I show off my die?
Yes.
This is the coolest present anyone's ever gotten me, I think. It is a Memento Mori die, and that means it's made of human people.
Are you
It's-
serious?
What?
Yeah, I use it for every death save now, and maybe Necromancer later.
Is it
But
You-
yeah, it's
feel like
a
this is-
bone. It's human bone. It's either from a medical, like donate their body to
Cadaver?
science, or
Mhm.
a like amputated limb, and it's in resin, and it's so crazy.
that
It's
is
so weird.
that
Here,
is.
hold on. Oh,
Oh,
So-
so hard to see.
we could have had that as a presentation by itself.
I
Yes,
know,
I had to show
touch
it
with
off.
your tongue, and if it sticks, it's bone. Otherwise, it's not bone.
I
Oh, hey,
think
we have an
it's
actual archaeologist here.
resined, so it just tastes like a normal dye. Not that I've eaten a lot of dye. You know,
Land the math rock.
Not to be a cannibal or nothing, but let me try this dice.
but let me just try it. Let me just try
Worst
this
dice.
bone.
You gotta roll it around in your tongue to fully understand the full flavor of the long pig.
yeah, maybe not for me today. I don't eat human pork. Seems bad.
That seems bad.
I guess it's ethical, right? Like, it's ethical, kind of. They donated their body to being a dye.
You
Just
hope.
science.
Yep.
That means they continue to play in the afterlife.
Yeah.
You could turn your ashes into a dye.
I would
That'd
do
be
that.
cool.
I would do that.
Immediately.
That-
Or miniatures.
Or
Of
oh,
you!
You don't want to do that because then the miniatures are gonna be wandering around at night, and like
no.
you'll just wake up with someone stabbing you with a little sword or a spear, whatever they made your miniature to hold.
Mhm.
You in the eye with it.
Recreating Gulliver's Travels.
Or Indian in the Cupboard.
Oh, I love that book.
Yep.
Book.
You can make an hourglass and like time things.
Yep, I've
Oh,
seen
this
that.
is so morbid.
And there's diamonds. You can make a diamond out of your loved one.
Oh, cool.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's a whole thing. Make jewelry out of the essence of your out of the compressed ashes, because when you compress them, they're like a jewel.
Yeah, it's just carbon. You're just
Yep.
compressing all that carbon.
Right.
All right. Before we begin, thank you, Eric Jackson, for your subscription.
I'm gonna look in the chat now.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess we're gonna talk about my lecture, the worst week of my life, my first week in LA. Let me go ahead and pin myself. Yeah, here we go. All right. So this comes with a content warning. I will message chat when I am done. This, again, is the worst week of my life, not just figuratively, but literally. The content warning is attempted suicide. So, my story begins when, having lived in the San Francisco Bay Area, I had left my job thinking that I would try to find another job. But because I was so young, or I looked so young, and even though I was middle management for a security company, no one would employ me because I did not look like anyone who had any kind of authority. I kind of figured, okay, there's got to be someone who will hire me. And I went through all of my savings. I went through all of my retirement, and I could not find a job. Eventually, I decided, oh, well, I can't find a job in the San Francisco Bay Area. Let me try to send a few resumes to Los Angeles. And I saw that one of them was interested, so I had to take a chance, and I drove my van from San Francisco to Los Angeles. I had my interview, and then I had nowhere to go. I had nowhere to go because I didn't have enough gas to return to San Francisco. I had one of those pay as you go cell phone bills. Sorry, cell phones. And I had 14 minutes left. And because I had moved out of my place, I was literally homeless, trying to find another job. I was already overdrawn $700 in my bank account. I had no more resources. And the only thing that I could think of was, how do I get rid of myself? Because I don't want to be a burden on society. I am completely useless as a person. I went to UC Berkeley. I earned had a good job, and yet I couldn't keep myself employed, so I might as well end it all. What made this different, other than just a random thought of suicide, was that I actually planned how I was going to die. I was trying to figure out, do I want to take pills? Do I want to jump off a bridge? Do I just go into oncoming traffic? It doesn't work in LA because traffic's too slow, so it just doesn't. Uh, I tried. I'm a little bit of a wimp though, so I couldn't do anything that had too much pain. But what eventually happened was I suddenly got a phone call. There was 14 minutes left on my phone, and they asked if I would be available for an interview for a live-in position with a director, I uh, and I said yes. I drove over there. It was luckily within 5 miles of where I was, and I lucked out and got the job. Now that sounds like a great story until you hear what comes afterwards. Uh, One thing that I forgot to mention is that when I was living in a van trying to contemplate all of these things happened in the North Hollywood uh, Magnolia Park. So every time I went to the North Hollywood Park, and it's weird because the Twin Mask fighting group is there. It always is a slight trigger in my head of that time in my life when I wanted to do myself in. Uh, I've gone over that now uh, because I kind of had to. I just kind of had to get over it. But what happened after that was I lived in with this director, and I was not planning to be in the entertainment industry. And within a week, I was asked to be part of a video shoot. And so what happened was I was working with a director. I started off as a PA and ended up being an AD by the end of that shoot, which was cool. But then I saw the star of the video. He came. He was a Nigerian soccer star. He had a ton of money. Was notably famous uh, in the region that he was from, and he was doing a music video. And I just remember he had a very heated fight with the director. The director was a small Asian woman. She was like 5'2". And I just remember him in the middle of this argument laying hands on her, just trying to prove his point, and my brain went, nope. What? And instead of trying to be confrontational, I just kind of walked over there and I said, "Hey, is everything fine? How's everything going?" And he said, "Everything's fine." And the director, who was clearly not fine based on her body language, said, "Yeah, everything is okay. They just try to say it's between a star and the director. And I said, okay, I'll be here watching from a distance. That had set this star off. He immediately ran towards me, began to uh, like I guess poke at me, just constantly push me and say, "What the fuck are you doing?" And he just every other word had the F word in it, and he said, "You know I could fucking kill you right now. What you're fucking you do know you're fucking worthless, right?" And this was said to my face the entire time. What made it worse was the crew and the entourage completely surrounded me, so I had no way to escape and no one was there to rescue me as this person went off, continued to give me death threats, continued to push me, and I could not get out of my flight or fight response. So I had to stand there and take it, um, and just constantly apologize, even though I knew I wasn't wrong. You just don't do that to a person that you're talking to, especially someone who is smaller than you. Um, Eventually, one of the uh, PAs managed to rescue me by saying, "Hey, we still have other things to shoot," and just grabbed me and had me go. And they said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "No, I'm not okay." I walked around for an hour and I was constantly followed. I think they were constantly following because they were making sure that I was okay. But in my brain, I didn't take it that way because of what had just happened. Uh, but I eventually they had persuaded me to come back the next day of the shoot, despite what had happened. Uh, the star apologized and said that he was drinking, and I'm like in my brain's like I didn't care. I didn't care. I'm not here for you. I'm here for her. I'm here for the director. I couldn't say that out loud, but that's the reason why I was there. I had every single reason to give up and go and leave LA, and not be in the entertainment industry. Uh, Again, this all happened within a span of a week. It was the worst week of my life, but I also know, looking back, that nothing in my life, no matter how bad it is, will ever be as bad as that week ever again. And so, whenever I look at a very hard day, I just look back at that week and go, "Nope, can't be as bad as that." When I got COVID, nope, it will never be as bad as that. When I got into any kind of kerfuffle, any job stress, I will always remember my very first week in LA. Nothing will ever be as bad as that. And that is my story.
Oh, oh my gosh. It's a really intensive story. I'm sorry. I'm glad you survived and you're okay and you didn't have to fight someone.
So suicide, death threats, feelings of complete worthlessness was my first week of LA. But
Why did you stay?
part of it was because there's the luxury of no choice. I My parents were in the Philippines. They had moved already. There was no one who I can really talk to. Um, Even if I had any cell phone minutes left, like who would I be able to call? There was also a horrible point of pride, just the idea of this should never have happened to me. Like I went to a very good school. I had a very good education. I earned like this much money. Why am I homeless? I don't get it. And that's what hit me. It also, one other thing dawned on me. And this was something that I remember from Jim Carrey. When Jim Carrey gave this graduation speech, he talked about how his father decided to go uh, to a regular business, a regular corporate business, because it was important to be safe. He wanted everyone secure. But that business laid him off, and everything that they worked for went away. And Jim Carrey said, I have learned that day there was no such thing as safe. You don't do things because they are safe. You now go for things that you want, because if you know that there's no such thing as safe, you need to go for the things that you want. And it's it hit me. It hit me because now that's kind of what I do. I'm very happy that I can have a Twitch show with my friends where I can talk about Shakespeare, have these kinds of stories, have like Purgatory Cafe, and have all of these things, because I believe in putting things out there, because there really isn't safe. There's either safe or there's joy. I have to pursue joy, because safe is not a thing. You need to pursue the things that you really, really want. And that's why I really love when people can pursue those things, and I love when I can help them do so.
Well, that's a way more positive spin than I think I would have ever taken on it. Um, oh, and I have to give you your drink totals, even though it feels odd to do it right now.
Ah, no, it's perfect because I have water, so I can hydrate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that'll be one for no visual aid, and then it will be 2 for the length, and I think that's it. So just 3 total.
All right, I'm drinking one.
I think you need to hydrate. You should have all three.
I should, yeah, I should.
Well, I'm gonna cheers to your success and still being here. Anyway, thank you for being so positive about everything, even
Yeah.
though bad stuff has happened to you.
Yeah, like it does take a lot to be positive about your situation, but really a lot of it is perspective. Like I said, I could have continued to go over to every time I pass North Hollywood, I could continue to be triggered, but I just have to think that nothing will ever be that bad. And it's important to have that when things are going rough. Like someone said, you don't quit on your worst day, because when you quit on your worst day, it's because you're emotionally overwhelmed. Uh, if you had the best day at your job and you realize you still don't want to be there, that's when you quit.
It's fair.
I'm sorry to bring everyone down.
I think it's a strong start.
Actually, so Ryan, I'm just thinking like you're a freaking hero. Like you drew fire from a woman, you took it, and you stuck with it. So that's like where I go with this. I'm like, Ryan's a hero. Like you stood up for someone in that moment when nobody else did.
Yeah, I mean, it could also have been partly ignorance. You know what I mean? Like just I mean, like in my brain is like you just don't, like, again, in a heated argument, you just don't touch a woman, like especially when it's a little bit of a putting the hand on her shoulder, and I'm like, no, you don't. But I think it's because this soccer star was so big, no one wanted to say anything, and I did. Um, but I will say that maybe one of the better tangent stories is that one day, I think like 3 years later, I said, I think it's time for me to leave LA. There's just nothing for me here. It's just so hard. And I said goodbye to a few of my friends, and one of them was the director. And I told her I am thinking about leaving LA, and she cried. She cried a lot. It's like, Ryan, you cannot leave LA. It's like there was so much for you here. Like there was you absolutely cannot leave LA. So she beseeched me to not leave LA, and because of her, I stayed. That same director from that video shoot.
That's amazing.
Now
Yes.
we all know you.
So yeah. All right. Any other questions? Otherwise, I feel like moving on because this is a lot of you may not be able to tell, but this is a lot of emotion for me right
Yeah.
Well, who's next?
now.
Alrighty. I guess I'll.
Yeah.
It's me.
Yes.
And it's gonna be.
We
It could
have
go
our.
either way. It could be
w-
happier. It could be less happy. We are talking Lord of the Flies sort of thing going on. So
Mhm.
let's let me know when I should
Yeah.
start.
Just let me know and I will click the button.
Okay. Alrighty. I guess
Oh yeah. Let's. There's no presentation, correct? So I'm just gonna
there's
pin
no
link.
presentation, so I'll be taking one drink for that.
All right. Let me go ahead. And...
Wait. I think I have a visual aid of. It happened on an island like this. That's visual aid. Does that count? I feel like that should count.
The council will allow it.
So, yeah.
I'll allow it. Because that was creative and clever.
You gotta move with it. So, I think most people know about Lord of the Flies. So I'm gonna start now, Tessa. Lord of the Flies was a book written by William Golding in like 1954. And when he wrote it, the purpose of it, as he said, was to trace the flaws in society to their source in human nature. And so he created, this fantasy, fiction of a group of English schoolboys who were abandoned on an island from a crash, and about what happens when all the civilization that holds our raw human nature is gone. I should say that William Golding was a school teacher, so that may have impacted how he felt about school kids and their whole thing after that. Um, so for me, I spent my early life, living on a boat, sailing around the world. My parents took me when I was 5, and we went sailing. And after like 2 years, we were in the San Blas Islands down between Panama and Colombia. Technically, it's part of Panama, but it's a pretty loose collection of islands, most of them deserted. And at one point, we're cruising with a group of other boats that have kids, since we like to gather together, since people really don't want to spend too much time with their kids on a very small space. They kind of build up so they have some play friends and they go sailing together. But everyone collectively got together and was like, we are tired of our children. We're going to put them on this island. And they left. And, it was only like, it was like 2 days, 3 days. We just kind of camped out there. They gave us some food. We had our radios. We could have done whatever we needed to do. We needed to, but they just kind of like, have fun, enjoy yourselves. And while there were plenty of conch shells around in the ocean, we didn't actually grab any of the conchs. We couldn't really kill any of the animals to eat them. So we didn't have a conch shell. And so the thing sort of did not devolve at all, actually. So there were 6 of us. It was me. I was the youngest at 7 years old. The oldest was Wes at 12 years old. There was 2 other kids that were both 11, Arthur and Jay. And then there was 2 other kids that were still older than me, but younger than them. And they were 9 and 8, and they were siblings. And that was Kai and Tyler. And first day, immediately split apart. The older kids went to one side of the island, and the younger kids were on the other side of the island. And we just kind of had fun. Nothing to worry about. It was just relaxing. We set up our campsites. We got fires, set up and ready to go. Um, and then nighttime came, and then there were monsters outside our tent because the older kids, all of 3 years older than us, decided to try to scare us in the campsite. Um, Luckily, we didn't really grab any like sharp sticks and try to stab anyone or kill the beast. We just kind of huddled in our tent, and then eventually they left and did their thing. And then nighttime, and then morning came, and we're like, oh my god, there's people on this island, and we had to go hunt around for the people on the island that were the monsters there. And of course, there was no one because it was just kids. But next night comes around, the same thing happens. And this time, us younger kids had gotten together, and we had prepared ourselves, and we had torches with fire ready to set up, and we chased the other kids down to the other side of the islands. And then that was it. So it was not as much of a Lord of the Flies as William Golding thinks, which also kind of ties into another example of a real life Lord of the Flies that happened in like '65. Some kids from Tongva got abandoned on an island. They spent 3 months there before they were rescued, and they had no issues. Like all 6 of them, they put together like a roster with garden and kitchen duties, and there were frustrations and fights, but they like imposed like a self-organized timeout system. They created like a guitar. They had music nights and stuff, and there was no thing at all like that. So I really think Lord of the Flies, as William Golding did, has more to say about his view of humanity than humanity's actual human nature, because there's at least 2 cases of Lord of the Flies where there was no murder. And yeah, that is my story.
All right, you stopped just before 6 minutes. It's like 5 minutes and 50 seconds. So that'll be 1 drink. Wow, that's so little. The council shouldn't have approved your island beverage as a picture.
You should not have. The council did. I'm excited. But yeah, so that was my Lord of the Flies experience.
So, question from me: have you ever seen the reality TV show Kid Nation?
I have not.
Okay. So it sounds a lot like Kid Nation, except that there were like I think 40 kids left alone in this town, um, asked to fend for themselves, ranging from I think 7 to 14. It was also strange reality TV type of thing. So if they did certain things, they could unlock certain things. So it was like I remember it was very controversial at the time. I remember it was entertaining at the time, but just listening to you, it's like I'm curious what your thoughts would have been on a show like that.
I mean, I would be totally for that. 100%. Like, I feel I have a weird thing about. I feel like most reality shows aren't really that reality. I think there's a lot of scription in there of things going on, especially with like young kids like that. I'm surprised that happened in the United States. Like, I'm surprised that.
One-time deal. One-time deal.
Right. But like kids are resourceful, like way more resourceful than you would think, especially depending on like the parents that they've had. Like I know kids who honestly are better outdoorsmen than I am, like, and they're like 13. So like I think it would be a fun thing, and I'd totally throw my kids that way. Get a vacation, have them run rampant for a few weeks.
I know what you're saying, but I'm just imagining like toddler survivor.
I mean,
That.
I am also for that. I think you them not on an island. You just leave them it's just Rugrats. You just make Rugrats in real life. You put them in a room. It's just preschool. That's all it is. That's all.
You've been voted off of recess.
Exactly.
I can't help thinking that the guy who wrote Lord of the Flies probably had a real similar idea about society as the people who make the Purge movies.
Right. I think that's kind of what it is. It seems. I think also like the whole idea of what happened at Lord of the Flies. I think says more about whatever culture you're in, because I don't think that's really representative of human nature across the board. I think how the type of society you're raised in, the culture you're raised in, definitely impacts that. And I think a bunch of white kids who are left to do whatever the hell they want on an island actually would have turned out exactly like that. So I'm not sure. As it happened, the kids from Tongva were fine, but that's a very different culture over there.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were fine, though it's for a shorter period of time. There's some joking and fire chasing, but nothing real serious.
So a little more like Gilligan's Island rather than Lord of the Flies.
Yeah, definitely more like that.
What did this island look like? Was it like a little piece of sand, or was it an actual like miles wide palm trees looking island?
It looked like this.
It looked like a beer bottle. I see.
Wow.
It was very much a very small island with a bunch of palm trees on it. We actually called it Urchin Island because it kind of looked like a sea urchin with all the palm trees. But it was just a small little spit, maybe, God, I don't know, half a mile in diameter. Nothing real big.
Mhm.
It's a lot of trust in the weather and the non-existence of pirates for me.
And there was definitely Pirates in the Caribbean. That was another story I could have shared. It was my experience with the Pirates of the Caribbean. But the weather's usually pretty good down in the tropics. Yeah.
All right.
all.
Any other questions?
Did you guys have to be concerned about the tide or anything?
We did not have to be concerned about the tide. It was if the island was smaller, it would have been an issue. But it was high enough. The tide did come up, but it wasn't too high. So we were good there.
Were you left with food, or did you have to prepare meals?
We had canned food. We had a can of beans, that sort of thing. Nothing fancy. You just kind of throw it in the fire and see what happens.
I don't trust it.
Fair. I'm surprised we survived as well as we did with our parents. I'm surprised the parents were just like, nope. As a collective, we are tired of your bullshit children. Go spend a few days on this island in timeout. We'll be back.
I want to read this comment because this is interesting from Sage Access. When I was a teenager, I was a camp counselor. All of the middle school aged boys and younger got put together in a cabin together, and it literally turned into Lord of the Flies. They had a leadership hierarchy and everything complete with initiation rituals. The stories I can tell, LMAO.
Well, did any of them get murdered?
Don't answer that, Sadie
No.
Access. You don't have to incriminate yourself.
You don't. They already had a response. Brittany,
Not
are you
for
ready?
lack of trying, probably.
No. Oh shoot! No murders, but there was a ritual where they were making kids jump off the top balcony onto a pile of mattresses.
Who doesn't do that?
For the mattress gods.
Blood for the blood gods.
The ma-
Short, wait, hoo-ha.
Oh.
Really funny but sweet how it devolves so
Oh
quickly.
no. Oh no. We don't need to go into Blue Nose and Shellback. We don't need to talk about that one.
Oh my goodness.
Maybe another day I'll talk about. No, I can't. I'm pretty sure I'm under oath.
Let's see. Like I enjoy reading these comments from chat, so thank you for contributing because it's like, also you relate. And these are fun to read. All right. Brittany, I believe it is now your turn.
Yes.
Um,
All
do
right.
you have slides, or are we just gonna do a pin spotlight on you?
I do have images.
All right. Feel free to share your screen.
Okay. Let's see here. Screen.
I'm gonna turn off my air conditioner real quick so it doesn't go woo.
Oh yeah, go for it. Anything to keep yourself cooled down when it's hot, totally fine.
Okay, so that's one photo of me when I was growing up between like 14 and 16.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a second photo of me, obviously an unhappy teenager.
Oh, Brittany, I think you're switching. Even though you're switching, I don't see the thing moving.
Okay. Let me see. Might have to stop.
Okay.
Let me close that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's try sharing again.
Alrighty.
There we go. And that is the second photo of me, unhappy teenager. And at that point, I was 260 pounds. And this was during my freshman year of high school. And within my childhood, my mother is a marathon runner, obviously very physically fit. My brother, physically fit as well on the football team. And I was like the odd fat kid in my household. I didn't quite fit in. And so I was bullied by both my mother and my brother.
Oh.
Obviously didn't have like the best, most cuddly, friendly child rearing experience for myself. And definitely not really much nurturing in my household, which played a part in why I gained so much weight. Was multiple reasons. So as I mentioned, one part is trying to protect myself against the world. Like a lot of weight gain can be brought on because of, I'm going to get really heady here, physiological happenings within your body that can come from stress hormones and a lot of other things going on within your own mind. So if you feel something's unsafe, it's obviously going to kick off cortisol. Cortisol kicks on a whole series of things of like, okay, it's unsafe. You might need to store up on food. So we're going to keep the weight on and you're going to use it slowly as things progress into whatever they're going to progress into. And it's obviously a dynamic that we've evolved into and something that really hasn't gone by the wayside throughout the human experience, which is really interesting, considering in this day and age, you know, how many calories we intake on a daily basis that our bodies haven't, most of our bodies have not adjusted to that. Like we see the people who can eat a ton of food and never gain an ounce of weight and stay the same weight, like Tesla. And then there's those of us that are like, no, I eat one thing and I just puff up. And so coming back to other things within my childhood, I was fed on like junk food, a lot of red meat, stuff that my body did not like. and did not process well. And so, yeah, it was this big, unhappy kid. Um, Definitely wanted to keep the world away, keep myself protected. So I leveraged my weight to be very intimidating and that sort of thing. Like nobody would mess with me. Never dated in high school. None of that happened, except for, my family. And so the big shift that happened was in my freshman year of high school, about middle-ish. I was walking around the playground, and I think this was either coming from or going to PE. I went to go flick a M&M and catch it in my mouth, and I trip. My leg lands like kind of behind underneath me, and I hear this or feel this pop in my ankle, and I'm like, oh, and then a ton of pain. And I'm like, yeah, that's broken. That's that's not right. It's broken. And so I'm like, holding back tears. I'm just like, oh, I'm in a lot of pain right now. And finally, one of my friends was there, and they're like, oh my God. So they get the teacher. The teacher calls the school nurse in. School nurse comes down with a wheelchair. I get in it. And as we are going to the office, she sits there and goes, oh my God, you are so heavy. She's pushing the wheelchair. Ugh, geez, you are so heavy. Are you sure you can't walk? And I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure my ankle's broken. And she just continues to go on this tirade of how heavy I am and how laborious it is for her to wheel me to the nurse's office at school. Finally, my mom comes and picks me up. I explained to her, I'm like, yeah, pretty sure I broke my ankle. And she's like, okay, we go to the doctor. And sure enough, I snapped my growth plate in half. I have 2 screws in my ankle and a nice little gnarly scar on the left side of my leg. I might show it, but it's kind of complicated to, squeak around in here. But yeah, so I have this gnarly scar, and that was the big turning point where I'm just like, I've had enough of this. I'm so tired of this. Um, Try going back to school on crutches, and it was literally like painful having 2 sticks jammed up in your armpits, and you're trying to get yourself upstairs. It wasn't working, wasn't happening. So I ended up staying home for 3 months until um, the what they did was a staple incision, so they stapled it shut. So finally that healed up and that sort of thing. But as I was lounging around, it was like, yeah, I was bored, and I was just so fed up and just so like, I get it. I was literally plotting like, I need to take over my diet. I'm tired of this. Just like this whole plan of like what I would do. And literally at that moment, I started by weeding out sodas, weeding out high sugar products. Sodas was the main thing. I was like, I'm not drinking any more soda. I'm just going to drink water. And that actually, the instant I did that, I lost about 20 pounds just doing that alone. And then eventually weaned myself off of fast food, um, did like some healthier fast food items, as healthy as you can get in fast food. As I was doing theater shows helped with exercise. And that like shut off another bunch of weight as well. And then I took over my own eating because I was tired of food that my mom would cook, which I really, the family can't even consider it cooking. My brother tells a story about my mom making pad thai and he puked afterwards. And since then he had to fend for himself. But so I started cooking my own food, started eating fresh fruits, fresh vegetables. Like I do a snack with like tomatoes and the mozzarella. Like I got really fancy about it, about preparing and cooking my own meals. And that pretty much all of that combined, I lost about 100 pounds by the end of high school. And I'm at the same weight now that I was then, which is like 120. However, my story doesn't end there because I'm 39 and I've had a kid, and those things shift the whole paradigm of dealing with your body and these changes and fluctuations, weight gain, weight loss. Like if you think of Oprah, you're like, yeah, she was slender. Oh, now she's big again. Oh, she's slender. You know, the yo-yo effect. And so as I kept going along, just from high school on, once I took on my diet and took responsibility for my body and for what I eat, I just kept up the research and kept with it. So once I got married, some of the weight crept back in. I was about like 140, 150. Probably the highest I was at was like 160. And some of that was the same, repeating the same thing from growing up. Married a person that was not the best decision for me to marry, and yet I was in that marriage for 10 years. We'll cycle back to that a little later in the story. But so that happened. And then when I became pregnant with my daughter, the first part of the pregnancy was like, yeah, I can't eat a thing. And then after that, it was like, eat all the things. They're staying down now. So I went up to 180, and that stuck around for a bit. And that was the second shift where it's more of a hormonal dynamic. And yeah, I wasn't getting enough exercise. Um, and yeah, my hormones definitely played a part in it. So more so than that, there was also other dynamics at play that the hormones had kicked off, which I had a systemic yeast infection, and that brought me to the next level in managing my diet and my health and wellness. If you don't know, systemic yeast infection, trigger warning, yeast in everything. Thrush, like it affects your brain, it affects the nether regions, everything. Yeah, it was not fun. It was a horrific experience. And so, me being the person that manages things on my own, I went on a candida diet, and that is no sugar. That includes no fruit sugar, nothing like that. And like pretty much straight veggies. You're kind of doing the, what is it, South Beach diet or keto diet type of thing. No fruits, no carbs, like, and that was intense. Like noticing how much I crave sugar and how it really sugar can be a complete addiction. Like that made total sense, having withdrawals, being totally aggro for like a week, and then the second week was like, okay, I got this. I made some great recipes and um, developed a recipe that I actually cater with that people actually enjoy. So I made some good food during that time, which is awesome. And so obviously lost most of the weight then, and then I was still within the marriage. Some of it crept back. By when my marriage dissolved, we can call this intermittent fasting and the depression anxiety diet, which when I do go into depression or anxiety, I tend to completely suppress my appetite. So I ended up getting back down to my weight of 120 through that, which is, interesting to actually leverage anxiety in that way and kind of see it as more of a beneficial, positive thing. And I got to reorient myself and also just bring in the other pieces of how traumatic situations or those situations that are very trying or unhealthy for you in a situational sense can help you hold on weight. Like literally one of my friends told me, she's like, the instant you left that relationship, it was like you shed a fat suit. And I'm like, yeah, so why was that? Went into research about it, and that's how I was able to bring together all these pieces and figure it out. So nowadays with my diet, I set goals. So it's like, yeah, during COVID, crept up a little bit of weight. And then now I've set a goal to where like, I want to have a 6-pack for Christmas. That's my Christmas gift to myself. So I've been upping on exercise again, and just really minding what I eat. Different ways that I make sure that I get fruits and vegetables in my diet. And in the easiest way possible is I joined a CSA, which is consumer supported agriculture, and that delivers fresh produce to my door every week. So it's like either I have a lot of stuff going bad or I eat it and it's filling up my fridge. So
Oh.
given that, kind of having that forced upon me willingly, it definitely causes me to eat healthier and be more mindful about what I take in. So, and obviously more mindful of my mental health through that. And, obviously I'm not in anxiety. That is not the healthiest way to manage your weight, but you can use that as a stepping stone for taking care of yourself, for self-love, for self-care, in various different ways, and continuing on a healthier path from there. So, other suggestions: avoid processed foods. Once again, why I suggest a CSA and bringing that into your household and supporting local agriculture and eating fresh, healthy produce on a daily basis. So hopefully that supports some of y'all. And I think I am at time.
Oh, all right. Thank you.
Oh, Tessa, I see you're talking, but I can't hear you.
Oh no. Hello?
There we
hello?
go. Now we can.
Yeah.
Hey.
Oh, you are exactly 1414. So 3, 6, 9, 12. That'll be 4.
4 chugs on my water.
Everyone's hydrating today. I feel bad.
I'm drinking water.
I will drink a chug with you because I have to refill my water anyway.
Kind of dark and stormy, so like, but it was only the one drink, so.
Hydrate with water.
Delicious water.
This is mostly water.
Yay! Oh yeah, I don't do alcohol either, so that is also a calorie loaded thing. Even though I do kombucha, that may or may not count. Some people say it does, some people say it doesn't.
I can 100% second the green box, the CSA stuff.
Mhm.
I used that when I was. I can't get one where I am now locally, which sucks. But I definitely used one up in Santa Barbara and then in North Carolina to get all the fresh greens all the time.
Mm-hmm.
What exactly is a CSA?
So it's consumer supported agriculture. So you're working directly with farmers or a farmer group that'll provide whatever they have in their bumper crops, or are slated to provide a certain portion of their crops to sell direct to the public. And it's like you can have a mix box, you can have just a fruit box, you can have just a veggie box. Different areas offer different things. Different CSAs will add in things like fish from Alaska, all sorts of stuff. So yeah, they can get very creative, very interesting, and overall it's been super practical.
And
I
it's
also have,
usually super cheap too.
yes,
Oh,
very
really?
affordable.
Yeah,
Yep.
like I would get a box for like every 2 weeks, and it was like a full, huge box of greens, and it cost me like $10.
$10?
What?
I was imagining like $100 or like $300 or something.
Oh my god, I want this now. For me, like I have such a huge problem getting veggies in my diet. Fruit is actually not a problem. Like I actually like fruit. But veggies, I struggle with them. I have to struggle to make them interesting. But something like this, $10 a week, or even like $20 a week, right? I'm like, I would invest in that because it's fresh. It's like this sounds like I didn't know about this thing, and thank you because now I kind of want to get one.
Oh yeah, there's some near me. I just googled it. Sorry to be googling during a show.
Yeah, I'm googling it too. And it's like, sorry, it's like this is such a good idea. I'm like,
Glad
oh my
not the only one
god.
doing it.
Yeah, so I get a fully organic family box every other week, and including the tip for the delivery driver, it's about $60 every other week. So
Wow.
120 for a month.
And you have more vegetables than you know what to do with.
Oh, I go through, actually, it's been perfectly sized and everything. So I also have a veggie garden it's a complete urban garden, so everything's in pots, but everything's edible. So I have a Juice Plus tower thing that I've been growing kale and experimenting with celery. So yeah, definitely very proactive in growing my own food as well. But that doesn't provide, whole meals. So
One near me that comes with, you can choose what veggies you get, and they send you herbs every time. And sometimes it comes with free beer, and it's
What?
$25 a box. Okay, well, great. Now I have to eat veggies.
Yeah. I don't know if I should feel bad by I'm also kind of looking. It's like I'm gonna bookmark it now because we still have a show.
Sorry.
No, do any questions for Brittany from the chat or from our panel?
Kind of one more, as a personal thing, because I've lost about 30 pounds in the last since June 1st.
Yeah.
So I'm down to 250 from 280. I'm hoping to get down to 180 by about this time next year.
Nice.
And you said you started at about 260, and now you have 120. So that's over half of your body weight.
Yep.
And you're saying you're trying to get to a six pack by the end of the year. So how long does it take for like the loose skin issue to become not an issue? Because that's
So
something that kind of scares me.
so that is one of the things. Like I still have flabby skin that is a thing. For me personally, like since I'm guessing since I lost the bulk of my weight in a younger age, my skin was more elastic. I am experimenting with like a derma roller, which is so it has like tiny needles, and then I make my own body butter as well. That treats stretch marks. The body butter does like minor work, but I'm kind of wondering if the derma roller plus the body butter might actually help to have the skin regain elasticity. But once again, it's all theory. I haven't proven that yet. But yeah, the extra skin, people do surgery, or the other option is gaining muscle as long as there's not too much of it. But that is something that is pretty normal. So
All right. Thank you.
and be careful, like go with a good surgeon if you are going to do the skin removal, because I've seen some very botched, not so good surgeries, and you really want to vet your person that you get supported by with that.
Gotcha. That'd be at least a year, probably 2 years out for me. Just yeah, but we'll see. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Any other questions for Brittany? All right. Tessa, you're up.
Okay. Let me try and share my screen. And can someone pretty please time me?
I got
See
you
if I
covered.
can get it. All right. I'm going to share Giuseppe. Okay. Can you see a weird screen with a pink square?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Fantastic.
Oops.
So, let me know when I can start.
Start whenever.
Okay. So, this is a story about Giuseppe, TTRPG characters that ended up changing my life. This whole thing is brought to you by Giuseppe's original character sheet, which I found in this gross pile of paper from when I still used chibi bears. And I was moving and I found it. And there's tons and tons of like D&D and Call of Cthulhu sheets. So I found the original Giuseppe, which is a miracle. This is because Giuseppes have somehow become a NPC that is very semi-popular in that not just I have a Giuseppe, but Giuseppe has spread to other games that people I know play, and apparently people on Reddit play. Uh, so I don't even know where the Giuseppes are, but the base of a Giuseppe character is so simple that anyone can make magic with a Giuseppe. Uh, Personal story, I guess, time. First of all, uh, let's see if I can click this button. There we go. Ignore the coffee stains and random doodles. I made the first Giuseppe ever, I think in like early high school, maybe middle school. I was probably 15 and I lived in Spanaway and I didn't have a car. So I had to walk places. And Spanaway is uh it was the 90s meth capital of the planet, and that is not a funny. That is a real. So my mom only let me walk like 5 blocks in any direction, and by the grace of an unknown deity, a store called Nerdy Stuffs, that was literally its actual name, its legal LLC was Nerdy Stuffs, opened down the street, and it was just within my like radius. So I would go down with my flip phone and my 2% peach water and bug all of the people at Nerdy Stuffs. And most importantly, I was the only person with a exception to bringing in food because I had brought the opening day a pie because I figured if I bring an apple pie, they might like me and I can come back. So there is where I started really my nerd journey. My cousin, Baby David, his real name is David, but he's a junior, but nobody says that, was a GM. And I was not very good at D&D at first. I love role playing. I'm not great at being a rules lawyer or making characters from scratch unless I have a long time and a big thick rule book physically in front of me. And baby David, luckily, is 6 years older than me. So as a 15-year-old, I had a like big burly black belt guy who was like, "That's my cousin. You back away. She's allowed to play at this table." And I had a bunch of experienced D&D nerd boys and me. So I figured I would play characters that could blend in. And that was, I think, the very beginning of Giuseppe. Uh, Giuseppe was a basic barbarian. And this is a very erased and recopied copy of the original Giuseppe that was modified when I was in college. So you may see some weird things on it. Giuseppe, as you can see, is at this point, level 9, but he did not start out that way. Barbarian. He is the most plain version of barbarian you can possibly make. I'm talking like the most boringest himbo of a barbarian ever created. His name was Giuseppe because at some point someone asked me what his name was. I said Joe Seppi, and I didn't know how to spell the name Giuseppe, so we went with it. And he ended up being a noble in this version, but he did not start out like that. Why Giuseppe is important comes when you can kind of go through this character sheet with me, and this is the version that ended up becoming popular. Personality traits. Giuseppe likes the common folk, and they love him for the kindness and generosity of Giuseppe's heart. It is Giuseppe's duty to protect all the people, and the common folk see Giuseppe as a hero. Giuseppe has like medium-ish armor. Giuseppe is real strong. Giuseppe not think. Giuseppe talk in third person sometimes, like the Rock or the Boulder or any other pro wrestler named after some type of igneous material. Giuseppe also hears veiled insults and threats, and is quick to be angry because he is a barbarian, the most normalist kind you can get. And as you can see, Giuseppe only had ever axes. Giuseppe doesn't like anything that's not an axe, including his great-grandmother's great axe, which by level 9 was like a huge silver iconic axe, because he just used nothing else. As you can see here, there's like rage, reckless attack, like primal path, the most boring as possible. Why would anyone care about Giuseppe? Here's why. This is the Giuseppe, and Giuseppes have always been and always will be a noble house of, quote, the North. Multiple Giuseppes roam adventuring, but never meet each other. Two live Giuseppes should never meet. Giuseppes have no last name. They are just named Giuseppe, and they are a strong familial group, even though they're never in the same room. When a Giuseppe dies, another appears to, and apparently I didn't write that, appears to avenge the previous Giuseppe. This was because during my first couple of games, Giuseppe just died a lot because I wasn't very good. And that's fine. That's fair. But here's when Giuseppe gets really cool. I went to high school, I went to college, and in college I started to GM my first ever game, which is really where I got my creative nerddom career started. I was really nervous, and I had a party full of ranged characters. And I didn't want to tell them they should probably make a balanced party because they were my friends and the only people who would play D&D with me. So I just made a filler character, and I pulled out my old Giuseppe. And they only needed him for one scene, so I figured I wouldn't have to explain anything about the original. And so they went down some caves, they got wrecked by a boar, and eventually I had a Giuseppe show up and say, "Adventurers, my brother was killed by the creatures that live in these tunnels, and so I shall join you in righteous vengeance." And so they had a frontliner who could step in front of the boar, and they could make it. They survived everything else, and eventually, when they take a long rest, they start to interrogate the Giuseppe. They're like, "What is your name? Where are you from? Who was Giuseppe?" And I said, "Giuseppe is my family name, and so it is not mine. We are from the North, and Giuseppe was my brother, and so I must avenge him." If the fighter in the group was unavailable, another Giuseppe would appear, or the same Giuseppe, doesn't really matter. And if Giuseppe ever dies, and they still need a frontline melee fighter, another Giuseppe immediately appears to avenge the previous one. It became like the Nurse Joy generic fight man of our games. Sister Giuseppes start to appear as months pass because I run out of fake dude voices because I can't really do those in the first place. And as I semi-suck at combat. And so we eventually made a system where you can roll a d20 to figure out vaguely the gender of the Giuseppe. And you can tell kind of them apart by how they use their hair wax, their only necessary item besides their great grandmother's kind of great axe. Also, they start to ask more questions about Giuseppe, and Giuseppe only has 3 scraps of information ever. How do you have that great axe from your great grandma? She was a great warrior with great weapons. Why don't you carry any money? I am a simple man of simple needs. And where are you from? I'm from the North. Our final game in my first ever campaign was a holiday game where they fought off the demon Krampus at the North Pole. It was over Christmas break. And eventually they get to the North Pole and someone says, "Giuseppe, where are you from?" Because every time they'd ask, he said the North. And they looked at me. I knew this was their last game. And I said, "More North." And Giuseppe ascended and became a minor god. And from that point on, every game that I've ever GM'd has had some version of a Giuseppe. And people really enjoy having these things. I've had Giuseppes end up trapped in rings, and then they talk to Giuseppes of next generations. The only rules for Giuseppe are be kind and be dumb and use your hair wax and avenge your friends and family. And it is from a Giuseppe that I gained confidence to play TTRPG. And then I ended up writing TTRPG mods. And then I played LARP and I wrote LARP mods. And now I help make edu-LARPs for the National Science Foundation. So I encourage everyone to, if your people are playing any TTRPG, put in a version of Giuseppe. He's nice, and he's instantly killable and resurrectable. That's all I got.
All right.
Well, I for one love Giuseppe.
Giuseppe is God.
Giuseppe
Great
God.
Giuseppe.
Giuseppe, the eternal hero.
The infinite Giuseppe.
Uh, I'll give you your time. It was 9 minutes and 57 seconds.
Dang it. Okay.
That's 3, I believe.
Okay. I'll just watermelon. Okay.
Watermelon.
I'm trying to take healthy chugs here. Yeah, it was through college TTRPG that I made characters that I still play today. After this, I played Call of Cthulhu TTRPG with a character named Theodora, and now I'm working on a Return to Innsmouth officially licensed escape room with Arkham Horror. Like, it all adds up. Giuseppe is the key.
Mhm.
I do have one very important question.
Yes.
How many axes did Giuseppe's grandmother have that all the Giuseppes had grandma's great silver axe?
Well, no one's really sure if there's just one, and when they come to avenge their grandma, they go get it, or if they all have identical axes. Maybe someone can make a lore where, like, many generations ago, there was a barbarian warrior who just forged hella axes, a bunch of silver axes. But no idea. That was never part of it. You can take Giuseppe lore as you wish, as long as he is nice and dumb and avenges his family and is a man of very simple means. Oh, and he's got to be from the north, no matter where you are.
Always north.
Always.
Yeah. Also, I just couldn't spell Giuseppe. I still don't know how to spell really Giuseppe. It's Italian, I think.
It is. I had my landlord when I lived in Italy was Giuseppe.
Isn't it Giu
G-U-E.
Ju? Oh, okay.
G-U-E-S-S. Just E-P-I.
Oh, now you're just making
I wish. I wish. I had to write that down so many times whenever I did my my paperwork for living in Italy.
We've got an attempt in the chat at Giuseppe that needed to be amended. It's that Giuseppi, apparently. So yeah, it wasn't very cool or intensive like everyone else's, but please add Giuseppe's to your games. I think they're spicy.
I do have a question for you as well. Will Giuseppe be making an appearance at Starfall?
Starfall Academy.
I am so excited for it. So
For those who don't know, I'm running a lightsaber LARP, or at least helping to, and I'm playing a Grandmaster. And I don't know if Grandmaster Vega Salon of Psychic Power is going to be a Giuseppe, but I guess we can get an NPC to just like roll up and avenge something.
if you need help, I already own a clear wax.
My character is Giuseppe in this lightsaber. My grandma's great lightsaber.
Light axe.
It's an axe saber.
Oh man, amazing.
Terrifying.
just proof once again that nerddom helps everyone out.
All right. Next, I think Jacob, it is your turn.
That's me then. All right.
Yes.
So,
And then cue me whenever I need to put up certain pictures.
certain pictures. All right.
Yes.
Okay. So let's get started.
All right. Let's
I'm Jake.
let's go ahead and pin you. There we go.
Okay. So, again, I'm Jacob. Today I'm talking about that time I traveled around the world in under an hour. So, which sounds ridiculous because the Earth is 24,901 miles around at the equator. To get there in an hour, you'd have to be going about 32 times the speed of sound. So we didn't do that. Also, Varlinicus in the chat was with me when we did this. So it turns out that the world, as you know, is a globe, and when you get all the way to the top, it's really easy to make a circle and go around the world. So if you would go ahead and put the first picture up.
All right.
This is actually, I was on a submarine, the USS Topeka, and we actually surfaced through the ice at the North Pole. Well, near the North Pole. It's the ice gets thicker right there at that point in time. It was November 2012 when we did this, so it was night the entire 3 days we were surfaced there. So we surfaced there. Well, before we surfaced there, we actually found a route and we made a real big circle. Took us about 45 minutes, and there we go. We circled the world, circumnavigated the planet. Great time. But while we was up there, if you'll put up the second picture.
Second picture's up.
I don't see it.
Up. Now it is.
I'm still not seeing it in the Twitch, but that's, oh, hey, there I am. That's me. I was actually up. You don't see my machine gun there. I was on polar bear watch at this point because, well, polar bears are at the North Pole and they will mess you up. Luckily we didn't see any because, you know, I didn't want to take that chance because, or I get my gun there. I was up for about 45 minutes. My gun completely froze over. It was negative 30 degrees before factoring in wind chill whenever we was there. I think after wind chill, it was something like negative 40, negative 50. It was cold. It was very cold. But we did meet someone really exciting while we was up there. If you'll put up the third picture. Yeah, Santa. So we actually found the North Pole itself. There was the executive officer of my ship. And we, you know, we had a little bit of time to talk to Santa. It was in November, so he was obviously really busy getting geared up for the season. But he took a few minutes to talk to the crew, you know, let him know that we're all, you know, really good boys, and we'll should be expecting something nice this year. After that, we, you know, we said our goodbyes, had to share some cookies, and then we went back under. We did a little bit of a survey missioning, and mapped out part of the underneath the North Pole. A lot of that area remains unmapped, you know, the ocean floor because it's hard to get there. So we checked that out. We did all that, and then we moved to the East Coast. We started in San Diego. We ended in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and yeah, across the world in under an hour. That's my story.
Woo. Yes. Thank you.
What do people in submarines want for Christmas?
Freedom mostly. Away from submarines. New clothes. It turns out submarines, because of the way they recirculate air, there's a smell that gets attached to your clothes that's very difficult to get out.
Ew.
So what you
Ooh.
do is whenever we're going places, like when I went to Peru or Japan or whatever, you'd seal your clothes that you want to go out in like vacuum bags, and then whenever it's time to go out, then you'd open it. So it doesn't have this permeated scent attached to it.
Ew.
Yeah, yeah. There's a whole lot of things that are not great associated with submarine life. That's one of the more minor ones.
Did you run into Giuseppe while you were up there?
No, not Giuseppe. Just unless Santa counts as Giuseppe. I don't know. Tessa, explain on that one. He didn't have an axe.
Is he kind?
Yes.
Is he kind of dumb?
Sometimes.
Is he from the north?
Oh yeah, I could hit the Giuseppe.
All right, there you go.
Dennis
Santa
Giuseppe, new Lord confirmed.
avenges his family. It's, I guess, all the elves. I don't know. But anyway, your time was 4 minutes, so you just need one drink.
Yeah, I was gonna say when you're like, I went around the world. I was like, it's very wide. You're like, it's very wide at the equator, and I was like, yeah, but it's very small at either pole. And then you went there. I was like, yes.
Yeah. Yep. I got a ribbon or something for no, I joined the Order of Magellan, was it?
Uh,
Help me out here.
it's well, I know the equator. So it's the Order of Magellan, then you have the Order of Neptune for the equator, and all the different.
Shellback, Blue Nose. There's a whole lot of ceremonies involving dumb stuff in our underwear on a submarine.
Yeah.
But
Oh.
yeah,
Sure.
Blue Nose.
Can you
Thank
give
you.
us some examples of dumb stuff you did in your underwear in submarines?
Sure, why not? So the Blue Nose that Leviticus is mentioning involves so what you do is first you take we got a bunch of ice cubes made, and you take them and you put them around your neck, and the string was long enough that it would go down to this area, and you just tuck them into your underwear. So now you have 2 ice cubes in your underwear. You're wearing you're wearing just your underwear, some flip flops, and a t-shirt. Also, we're currently the day before we turn off the heating in the ship.
Just to make it really
So it's
cold.
ocean temperature? Like,
Underneath the North Pole, it's cold. Parts of the outer hull started to frost. And then we do really silly things like crawl down the torpedo tube and touch it with your nose. The torpedo tube is the closest you can get to the outside because you open up one door, there's the other door. It's like I don't know, 20 something feet you crawling through. It's 21 inches around. If it was really small, you could turn around. Most of us had to wiggle backwards 20 feet. So then we would get go down some stairs into this what we call the valve station. It's basically just this hole where there's a pump to in case the ship takes on water, pump it out. It's one of the low points. We got down there. There's a fire hose going that's shooting just seawater at us, and you have to sing songs like "Who Lives in a Pineapple Under the Sea" or "Row, row, row your boat." And once the bilge master or whatever he called himself was done with you, he sent you off to go. Oh God, do we see Neptune that time, or was it the King? I don't remember if it was Neptune or someone else that time. I had to present him a gift. My personal gift I made for him. I took a burlap sack, cut it into pieces, got some string, put in a bunch of peanuts, and then I came up to him and was like, "I'd like to present to you, my lord, my fuzzy nuts." So there you go. There's an insight into submarine culture, tradition, and humor.
So it was Poseidon, because Poseidon got around.
Yeah, probably. We are not answering that one in the chat for legal reasons.
Okay.
what?
Oh yeah, I see the question. It's totally fine.
Is it a secret?
It is, yes.
Oh. When you said around the world in an hour, I assumed you're going to be an astronaut, but this sounds more dangerous than being an astronaut.
Technically speaking, yes.
As an underwater archaeologist, a sailor, and an avid diver, yes, the ocean is much more dangerous than space is, ironically.
Yeah.
I think we know less about the what's in the ocean than we do about space currently.
It is true. Well,
Mm-hmm.
if anyone's interested, you guys can go see a U-boat that's sunken in Los Angeles Harbor. if you can dive.
I don't want to go to an abandoned U-boat in the ocean bottom. Sounds scary. But you guys can go.
I'm good. I'm good with stories.
Yeah. Probably for the best that way.
Yeah.
So tell me more about diving to this U-boat.
It's right there in Long Beach, in the port of Long Beach. After World War II, the military, the U.S. military, had captured like 3 U-boats for research purposes, and then they took one of them on a tour around the country, and then they blew it up in Los Angeles Harbor. It's a big show.
Sounds like LA.
And it's still there.
Wow.
Not by Nazis, so that's better.
Interesting.
All
The
right.
bigger- Oh, go ahead.
Oh, any other questions?
How long were you a submariner for?
So I was on the Topeka for I believe 5 years, but in total, I was in the Navy for about 10.
Okay. Nice. Oh wow.
It's a long time to be in a tin can under the North Pole.
Yeah. Well, I think it was under ice for 20 or 30 days, something like that. It took a while. You go very slowly whenever you're, dodging ice.
Right. Yeah. You don't really
Did you
want
meet
anything under that pressure.
Did you meet any giant squid? Dosidicus gigas?
I'm not certain. I don't know what a squid sounds like. I've listened to dolphins and whales and shrimp, krill, other sea life. I don't know what a squid would sound like, so I don't know if I have or not.
Wait, you've listened to shrimp and krill.
Yeah. So, as you know, humans produce waste, and on the submarine, that has to go somewhere eventually. So whenever we do that, the krill see that as or krill or whatever small sea life sees that as a buffet. It just sort of creates a swarm around us. Yeah. Yes. I'll get that to you later.
I have never seen that before in a chat.
Congrats!
Wow. Wow.
um,
That's a first for live action roleplay.
hey. I guess I don't know. I don't know what to say there. Yeah. So, any other questions? Best port you remember? Oh, golly. I have to say Japan. Yokosuka is nice, but going to Tokyo has got to be one of the highlights of my career. Norway is also a very high up there. Ooh, but that's mostly because while I was in Norway, we went to a private dining island. There was a separate island that had its own, like this restaurant had its own island. So they set a boat to get us. We went there. It was like a 10-course meal with a wine pairing, and the meal was based on what was caught that day.
Oh my god. That sounds luxe.
It was. We ended up buying brand new suits just to go.
Wow.
I still have it. I don't fit in it, but I still have it. It's the only one I have with cufflinks.
You will one day. I believe in you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. Let's go ahead and move on to Eric. Eric, are you ready for your
Okay.
presentation? Okay, give me.
Yes.
All right. So
Let me know when you want to start time, too.
Okay, I just need to figure out how to do the screen save or
screen share.
screen share.
Press the green button that says share screen, and then select the screen that browser that you want to share.
There it is. I moved things so it minimized it and hid it.
Oh, no worries.
Okay, I think that should be it.
All right.
I can see it.
Yep. Yep, we're good.
Okay, let's start off with a little
Oh.
touch of.
Oh,
Okay.
before we begin, you mentioned that you wanted me to uh fix those slides. So let me go ahead and do that. Give me 30 seconds here while I take care of that. Let's see here, and then I'll pin you. Okay, sorry, give me a little bit.
Technical difficulties. Please stand by.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's not
On
so
the
much difficulties, we
troublemaker.
just wanted to make sure that things were handled upon request, since Eric did actually request this, but I didn't know what the final output would look like, so I'm making that adjustment right now. All right. Hopefully, I'm gonna hold on. Transition. Darn it. Oh, okay, there we go. Okay, we're ready now.
Okay, let's begin. My story takes place in Laos, starting in 1974. Um, for those who don't know, Laos is a small country that borders Vietnam. It's just to the west. And in 1973, the US pulled out of Vietnam. And there we go. This the background graphic is the flag of the Kingdom of Laos. Anyway, the US pulled out of the Vietnam War at that point, but the war itself didn't actually end. So that was still going on. And then also in 1973, a civil war that had been raging in Laos for close to 2 decades. They basically signed a peace accord with the government where they would share power, and the communist Pathet Lao uh, got certain areas, and then the government primarily got the cities. So that happened then. Um, Actually, I say 9 years. That's not correct. It's 2 decades. Um, so on paper, at least, everything looked much better. And at about that time, my parents, who were teachers um, working in Wyoming, they were contacted, or rather, the State Department started putting the word out they were looking for teachers. And the reason was because of a organization which is at the time was kind of like the Peace Corps. They would be given large amounts of money and they would go in and rebuild infrastructure, and they'd build hospitals and schools and maintain roads and water systems. And so with these people came a lot of diplomats and dependents. And with dependents, you had kids, so they needed teachers to teach them. And so my parents, after looking at it, they were both teachers, so they could, afford to pull up stakes for a couple years and move to Southeast Asia. And they did that in 1974 and arrived in Laos. And looking through Google Earth, I was actually finally able to find what the compound that they lived in, or we lived in, this is what it looks like now. Uh, Back then in 74, everything below the compound was jungle, and pretty much everything to the north were rice paddies. And so I put a little graphic. The yellow shows the fence or the wall that ran around the compound. And then the blue box is the school, and the red circle is the main gate to the camp or compound. And our house was somewhere in that green square. I'm not sure exactly where it was, but it was across the street from what's in this picture, that large square building. But back then it was just an open field. It had a football field and a couple of baseball fields and some tennis courts. And found a picture roughly what the front gate looked like back then. And you can see security wasn't terribly tight. I mean, it was easy to climb over the walls. And as kids, we would do that every once in a while. We would climb over one of the walls and run around in the jungle for a while, come back. We never actually went into the rice paddies, but that was just because they were wet. And then this was the school. This was actually the high school level, which was 2 stories. The administrators worked out of the upper floor, and they had diplomats that were working there too. And then the lower floor was the classrooms, and that little smaller building you can see was the lower grades. And living there, there wasn't a whole lot of entertainment. You know, there were no television stations that you could watch, at least not unless you could speak Laotian, and same with the radio. And books were somewhat scarce. You know, we had a school library, but it wasn't very well stocked. So I went through those in about a month. And what I fell back on were comic books. Um, the commissary in the compound stocked comic books. They would get, you know, racks full of them. And so my mom, whenever she went shopping, would grab, you know, several comic books. They were cheap. And I would read them and reread them. And things were pretty good. Unfortunately, the whole USAID thing was pretty much a lie. The diplomats and the administrators were actually working for the Central Intelligence Agency.
What?
And they were supporting the war effort. The secret wars had never completely ended, and they were aiding some Laotian generals who are continuing to fight. And the way they were doing that is through their own private paramilitary air force, also known as Air America. And they were using them to transport weaponry and men, and also provide photo reconnaissance for the forces. And somewhat unfortunately, they were also carrying heroin.
What?
Whoa.
The general who commanded the Laotian forces it was a very poor country, and they had very little money, so they were using the drugs to finance the operations. Of course, we didn't know about any of this. And it finally all came to a head one morning when we woke up, and to the headline, there were tanks rolling down the main entrance to the compound, and soldiers surrounded us and basically said, "You're prisoners now, you can't leave." And I don't really remember how long it lasted, but it was anywhere from a week to a couple of weeks where we were stuck inside the compound. And fortunately, they didn't ever actually enter, they just stayed outside and negotiated until finally in 1975 we woke up one morning and we were told to all gather at the front gate, and there were several small buses, and we were all stuck on the buses, and the driver proceeded to drive at breakneck speed through the city, dodging tanks and soldiers. And they took us to the main airport, where they flew us out of the country on Royal Air Lao. And I don't know if you can read it, but the little call out I put there, they talk about the path at Lao. We're suspicious of the US AID mission because they believed it was a front for the Central Intelligence Agency, which it 100% was. And obviously, when they sent us packing, we were only allowed to take one bag with us. And so I had to leave all my comic books behind. And that's how communist insurgents took my comic books. And as just a little thing, I found this picture. That's what the gate to the compound looks like now. After they kicked us out, they repurposed the compound into a military school of some sort. And you can actually Google Earth and drive around the compound, but you can't go inside, which is kind of unfortunate, but definitely interesting with the vaguely Asian style roofs and then the hammer and sickle. So that's my story.
That's crazy. You're a prisoner of war because your parents were good people, but they didn't know you were spies. That's crazy. That's so cool and horrible.
Yeah, we didn't find out about, all these people working for the CIA until afterwards, when we went back to basically back to the States. And we start finding out that all those people that were friends with my parents weren't actually the administrators of the school, but were the division chief of the CIA and the agent in charge of this or that.
I mean, I guess. Oh, right, time. 11:28. So 3, 6, 9, and then a bunch of people redeemed hydrate. So
Yeah, well, I'll drink for the
so
hydrate.
3.
I'll be drinking from my official Purgatory Cafe mug.
You guys have a mug?
Yay!
So coincidentally, I was also trapped in Laos for like a week.
What? What?
Yeah, this
Laos a
year,
trap?
me and my wife were going through Southeast Asia backpacking, and we got into Laos, and it was during COVID. And so, like, when you were like Vientiane, we spent time in Vientiane and all through the Luang Prabang and all that. And we went to like a rainforest for like 2 or 3 days. And then when we came back out of the rainforest, all the borders had been shut down. And so we were stuck there for like 2.5 weeks. And so we just continued, backpacking through it until we had to get evacuated out through the UK embassy on Royal Lao Airlines.
Unfortunately, it's the back country in Laos is extremely dangerous now.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Largely due to the CIA.
Yeah, there's like during the Secret War, which isn't so secret, but during the Secret War, they dropped, I think it was 8,000
I know it was
units
two.
of ordnance every like 5 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, they dropped 2 million tons of cluster bombs.
Yeah,
of which they say something like 80 million didn't explode.
Yeah, and they're still there, so you don't go off the paths because you might run into some unexploded ordnance. But we loved it. The people there are fantastic. I still have some Lao kip in my wallet.
Wow.
It is a really cool country. We were there for some of the festivals and things. Like they had the one where they would put little candles on boats, folded paper boats, and float them down the Mekong. And then there was the weird one where they would fire rockets across the border into Thailand, and the Thai would be firing rockets back, and there was a competition to see who could get a rocket farthest into the country.
Yeah. They have the friendship bridge between Thailand and Laos, and they were building it together, and they were going to meet in the middle. And Thailand finished their half way earlier than Lao did, and in fact, Lao never actually finished it. Australia helped them finish it, and now you have a flag on each side. You have Thai and Lao flags on each side of the bridge, but in the middle, there's an Australian flag.
Yeah, back when I was there was no bridge we had to take. We would take a ferry across to Nang Khai, and then we would take the night train down to Bangkok. Mm-hmm. That was super cool. Although we learned after the first time doing that you always bring your own toilet paper, because the stuff that the trains provided, you could literally get splinters from it.
Oh.
Ouch.
That's if you even get toilet paper. The bum gun is king down in Laos.
You say bum gun?
Yes, the bum gun.
What? Is it like a bidet? What is a bum gun?
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
But you're never really sure of how much pressure is going to be in the bidet. So it's an adventure everywhere you go.
Oh my god.
Could be a super soaker, could be a squirt gun.
Oh no.
I have a question. So you know that communist insurgents probably took your comic books, but do you think they were comic books that they would, I don't know, redistribute in the communist system? Like, I'm assuming Captain America is probably a bad thing for them to keep or give out?
Probably, who knows? I mean, yeah, most of them couldn't read it, so maybe if they liked the pictures. We actually, when we left, they gave us these big boxes. They're like 5x5 cubes that we put all our stuff in. And every couple of years after we got back to the States, we would get one of these cubes. But like 70% of the stuff in it wasn't ours. So they were basically apparently just opening everything up, and they would just mix it all up together and send it on.
Weird.
Wow.
You ever get a comic back?
No. Which is too bad, because I remember some of the comics and I would have liked to have gotten them back.
Do you remember what comics you got?
Two of them I remember were Spider-Man, and he was fighting Mysterio. And it was the only two comics where he's actually had the Spider-Mobile. Which
There's a
for
spider?
for two comic books, they gave him it was like a modified dune buggy that had the Spider-Man logo on the hood and everything. And this was, amazingly right before one of the toy companies put out a toy Spider-Mobile. So
Amazing.
it was in support of that, and then they got rid of it almost immediately.
Sounds like you had some amazing collectible comic books. I'm just like, oh, it hurts me that you didn't get them back.
We had gone to a bookstore in Bangkok, and my dad had bought one of the original Tarzan books by Hogarth. And that was really impressive artwork, and that was another one we lost.
Oh,
Oh, like a first edition or something?
Yeah.
Wow.
wow. Uh, I just wanted to interject that. I just want to point out to everybody that Eric, I believe this is your first time being on a stream. At least
Yes,
I
it
know for
is.
sure, like being on a stream. And I know you mentioned that you were a little nervous about coming on, but you did great.
Yeah.
It was compelling. It was like, wow, none of us saw that twist.
I think it helps that I can't actually see the audience. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
they
like
might.
talking to friends. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah, don't
Uh,
be nervous. You did great.
Yeah. Oh, you did
Thank
great.
you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Because I also have to bio real quick. In fact, I'm gonna bio right now. Entertain the crowd while I dance away and then come back.
So,
I just thought he might pee his pants, but that's fine too.
yeah,
Probably better this way.
Anything for the art, right?
So Eric, do you remember what it was like kind of being closed up in the compound?
At the time, I didn't. I was really young,
Mm-hmm.
and I could see that the adults were all kind of nervous, but they did a pretty good job of. My parents didn't, freak out, so I was never really terribly scared. I was kind of a pain because I couldn't go and play with my friends. So I was
Aw.
just stuck in the house for several days. They did one thing they allowed us to do is since they realized, they were going to be leaving the compound, they told all the kids that you can go to the school and you can take anything you want. Anything that isn't nailed down, you can have. If you can pry it up, it wasn't nailed down. And so they just let us loose on the school, and we ran amok, tearing up everything.
Wait, does that tie back to Lord of the Flies a little bit?
Hey, very Lord of the Flies of you. Loud.
So I hear your parents have these connections.
Yeah, after we left, we never heard from any of those people ever again.
Interesting.
They just all disappeared.
I know when we were trapped there and we were trying to get out and we were calling the State Department. This is very sad. We call them and they're like, "So where are you? Where are you?" And we're like, "We're in Laos." And they're like, "Yeah, but what country are you in?" And we're like, "You're the State Department."
That place you bombed the hell out of. That's
We spent a lot of time, participating in that 30-year secret war. And
America's like
Laos isn't very important at all. You don't even recognize it as a country. That's cool.
wiped from the memory. Country doesn't exist. Sorry, didn't happen.
Well,
Just sitting there like, you realize how little that narrows it down?
yeah.
Okay. So, I'm gonna go around the room and ask where people can find you. I'm gonna start off with Tessa. Where can people find you on the internet, and what are you up to? Plug your things.
Oh, great. I am Tessa. I'm at Asset Tessa 101 or Asset Tessa 1. People took my name because it's a palindrome. And I'm up to plenty of things, including Starfall Academy, where it was just semi revealed that I'll be playing Grand Master Vega Solon. So if you want to see me kind of be like Yoda, but I make more stuff levitate, come to a Blockbuster LARP. I'll hopefully see you there. Plenty of other stuff too, but nothing I want to plug elsewise.
All right, Brittany, where can people find you on the internet, and what are you up to?
People can usually find me here. Yay!
Yay!
So I am actually in a game on Nat 21 Adventures, and that happens Sunday at 5 p.m. So you can tune into that, called Gabliona. Glabon, Gabonia, whatever. Sorry, not pronouncing it correctly. But it's fun. It's been great so far. We had an introduction on Sunday. So the actual first episode happens this Sunday. So I'd love to have you guys join. Other than that, I work on my blog Obscurum, which is at obscurum.com, obscuram.com. And you can find more about my weight loss journey and how that can support you on my blog as well. You can find me online all over the place. Instagram under Brittany Per as one word, and also at i.am.obscurum. You can also find me on Twitter under at Yewenchie, Yewenchie. And yeah, those are the places that I usually hang out in.
All right, Trevor, where can people find you on the internet, and what are you up to?
You can find me here as well when this ever actually make it work. We're at the Drunk Archaeologist, where you can also find me at the Real Drunk Archaeologist on Twitter, or the Drunk Archaeologist on YouTube. Whenever I get to making my videos where I answer all your deep questions about archaeology and what actually goes on in there. And if you have any questions, you can always send them to me at therealarchaeologist@gmail.com.
All right, that's right. Jacob, where can people find you on the internet, and what are you up to?
I am Night Havoc on Twitter and Nightlight Too Bright on Instagram. Both of those, the only thing I'm really been doing is I post once or twice a day where I have just left the gym. That's it. That's my content.
All right.
Eventually, I'm hoping to do more, but we'll see.
Okay, Eric, where can people find you on the internet, and what are you up to?
Well, I don't do a whole lot online. You can find me on Twitter at EricJ10448. I occasionally post artwork and characters for various role-playing games. And I collect role-playing games, so I will post about them occasionally.
Yes, and Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
I was just going to say, and that's pretty much what the extent of it.
Yes, and you made some amazing big eyes, small mouth characters for many of the
Right.
boardroom devils.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, hold on. Let me copy this information. So you could find Trevor at his projects. And so, for me, you could find me here on this channel with a couple of things that are coming up. So, Monday, we are going to have Breaking Bard Macbeth, also known as A Damned Spot of Shakespeare, directed by Ashley Bargy. And that is happening Monday at 7 p.m. Pacific. And let's see if I can get my cast list out here. Let's see. And included with that group is, again, I have to like upload this. My computer is being a little slow, but that's okay. just more anticipation. Um, so included in that group is Anthea Tully, Case Poisel, Darren Carter, uh, Shoshana Ruth Green, Rachel Pinto, and Derek James. So that is the group for Macbeth. That is happening this Monday. Next Wednesday, we're going to have a special version of Game Over video chat with Tommy Morenges. He is. We're going to be playtesting an official playtest of Inhuman Condition, um, which is very much like a an interview between two people, like a mini LARP, trying to figure out if the person you're interrogating is a robot that is trying to kill you. So it's a mini LARP. Most people know him as being the designer for Secret Hitler. So it's actually kind of fun to be able to play test this because he wanted to see if there was a live streamer who would be willing to play test a new variant for um, for Inhuman Conditions, and I said yes, I would love to do that on my channel. I still need to find players, so be on the lookout. I'm gonna try to look for a couple of players who want to play test this game next week. Also, starting tomorrow, I'm going to be working with Maxwell Colburn. He is he's also part of Breaking Bard. He is going to be directing Much Ado About Nothing, which will be adapted for this show on one of the first 2 weeks in August. But we're going to have open auditions for that. So if you are interested, please let me know by contacting me either on Twitter, and I will send you the information. When we say open auditions, as in Max and I will actually be in a Zoom room.
Wow.
Sorry. Max and I will be in a Zoom room uh, actually looking over people as they do a live audition for us. Not live on stream, but live in front of us. And if someone manages to do that, like I'll also give you like some coaching if I feel that you need it. So that is what I am up to. If you like what we do, please feel free to follow us here on Live Action Roleplay. If you'd like to support what we do, please feel free to subscribe. And thank you so much for attending this month's Point and Clink, and thank you for all of the people speaking here today. Like I I really love a lot of these stories, and I actually learned a lot that I kind of want to take with me immediately after this. Like either today or tomorrow, I'm gonna look up CSAs in my area because I'm like I didn't know that there was like food that would be that cheap and in a box, and that would be really really cool. So until next time, we will see you later.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye.